happens when a CBS News host thinks she's about to humiliate Marco Rubio on live television, but instead exposes just how disconnected the media has become from reality? Well, this all unfolds on CBS News with Margaret Brennan pressing Marco Rubio using what was clearly meant to be a gotcha question about Nicolas Maduro, Venezuela, and of course the U.S. military operation that removed a narco dictator without losing a single American life. And from the very second, you could pretty much feel it. The tone, the pressure, the posture, the quiet condescension. That wasn't curiosity. That was ambush. Now, here's where everything goes completely sideways. Because instead of backing down, Marco Rubio calmly walks her straight into the facts, the complexity of the operation, the legitimacy problem with Maduro, the countries that never recognized him, including the United States and the European Union, and the reality that this happened under President Donald J. Trump, not some abstract theory panel in a newsroom. And then suddenly the script breaks. Now, you can almost hear the panic set in as the narrative collapses in real time. The question that was supposed to embarrass Rubio ends up humiliating the interviewer. And viewers at home, especially those that are tired of being talked down to, they felt it immediately. Now, if you ever watch cable news and thought, do these people even live in the real world anymore? This moment right here explains everything. Now, stick with me, guys, because what happened next, this isn't just about Marco Rubio or Maduro or Venezuela. This is about why legacy media keeps on losing control live on air. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to show your support. This moment right here starts exactly where so many legacy moments start right now, with Margaret Brennan sitting behind the authority of CBS News, speaking down to Marco Rubio as if the outcome is already decided. Her posture isn't curious, it's corrective. Her tone signals disbelief that Rubio, under President Donald J. Trump's administration, would dare defend the U.S. operation involving Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro. Now, the objective here is obvious. Frame Rubio as reckless, impulsive, and morally compromised. Make him look like the face of American overreach, and, by extension, make Trump's foreign policy look completely dangerous. Now, here's the mistake that CBS makes, or at least one of them. They assume that the audience is still operating on the old script, where the anchor asks, the politician stumbles, and the network wins. Yeah, that one. What they didn't account for is that Rubio wasn't walking into a neutral interview. He was walking into an ambush, and he already knew it. And when the trap snaps shut, it snapped on the wrong person. This wasn't journalism. This was an ambush, and it went sideways fast. Then came the moment that flips everything. Margaret Brennan presses Marco Rubio with what she clearly believes is the killing blow. Why didn't the United States arrest all of Maduro's people at once? Why not sweep the board clean? And in that instant, the illusion breaks, because the question isn't tough. It's unserious. It treats precision military operations like some video game raids. This ain't Call of Duty, lady. It reframes restraint as failure and discipline as weakness. CBS News isn't asking about strategy, it's implying incompetence. I mean, you can see it on Marco Rubio's face before he even responds. The shift, the pause, the realization that he's not debating policy, he's correcting fantasy. Rubio doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't dodge. He just explains calmly that what she's talking about, what she's asking for, would be chaos, operationally reckless, politically explosive, and militarily absurd. And right there, live on air, the power dynamic flips. The interviewer suddenly loses control, not because Rubio attacked her, but because reality did. Now, this is where Marco Rubio stops playing defense and starts laying out reality. And you can almost feel the studio go quiet. He explains that the operation involving Nicolas Maduro wasn't some symbolic arrest. It was one of the most complex extractions that the United States military has executed in years. Maduro wasn't hiding in some condo. He was living on a fortified Venezuelan military base. Armed, guarded, embedded, Marco Rubio walks the audience through it verbally. Helicopters in and out within minutes. Boots on the ground, just long enough to grab the target, read him his rights, secure his wife, who was also indicted, and leave Venezuela without losing a single American life or asset. That's not chaos, that's precision. And instead of acknowledging that reality, CBS News framed the success as a failure because it didn't fit their expectation of spectacle. Rubio makes it very clear. This wasn't Hollywood. This was discipline, restraint, and competence under President Donald J. Trump's command. And that contrast makes the media's framing look ridiculous. difference. Now, what you just heard from Marco Rubio about precision, discipline, and getting things right the first time actually applies to something a lot closer to home. A retiree just told me that she lost over $1,200 last year and didn't even realize it. No scam, no fraud, just a Medicare plan that quietly cost more than it needed to. She said that money would have covered my groceries for months. Now, that's the part that really hits, because most people assume that their Medicare plan is being watched. It's not. If no one reviews it, wasted money just keeps on slipping out year after year. And this is why I partner with Chapter. They review your Medicare coverage, they find the money that you're losing without realizing it, and they help stop the bleed before another year goes by. Now, most people watching this show right now, they're already dialing the phone number at the bottom of your screen, 909-563-8279, or they're clicking the link in the description down below to go to askchapter.org/Ron. It is a simple, quick, and easy review, and it can make a real difference. All right, so let's get back to what CBS didn't want to deal with. So what Margaret Brennan implies next is where the disconnect becomes impossible to ignore. Her questioning suggests that the United States should have stormed multiple Venezuelan military bases simultaneously, rounding up everyone that was tied to Maduro in one sweeping move. And Maduro dismantles that idea in real time. He explains what CBS News won't. Secrecy is the entire operation. You don't telegraph targets. You don't announce timelines. You don't brief the enemy through a Sunday show. Rubio essentially asked the question that viewers were already thinking. Does CBS want generals explaining future missions on live television? This is where the interview truly collapses, because the audience understands instinctively, even if the host doesn't understand, that military success depends on silence, not advertising what you're going to do next on Instagram, on some commercial ads or anything like that, right? Now, most people have absolutely no idea what's happening right now beneath their feet. So while the media is obsessed with these fake scandals and culture wars and whatever outrage they're told to scream about next, something far more important is unfolding quietly. Something that affects national security, American manufacturing, and whether the United States stays strong in a world that's getting more and more hostile by the day. And it has everything to do with critical minerals, America First policy, and the kind of strategic thinking that we've seen from President Donald J. Trump already. Because whether people like it or not, Trump understood something long before the rest of Washington woke up. If you don't control your resources, you don't control your future. Now, today's video is sponsored on behalf of Saga Metals, currently listed on the OTC exchange under the ticker symbol SAGMF. And once you hear what they have confirmed, you're going to understand exactly why this matters right now. So let me explain. For years, America outsourced the backbone of its economy. That's right, America outsourced the entire backbone of the economy. Steel, aerospace metals, battery metals, strategic supply chains. China didn't. And under President Donald J. Trump, that reality was finally confronted head on. Trump talked consistently about supply chains, manufacturing independence, defense readiness, and bringing strategic production back home. Now, this is where Saga Metals enters the picture. Saga isn't talking theory anymore. In fact, they have delivered proof. At their radar project, Saga just confirmed something that takes most mining companies decades to even sniff: a massive continuous titanium vanadium iron system, starting right from the surface. Not a teaser hit, not a press release trick, not cherry-picked intervals. We're talking nearly 300 meters of continuous mineralization from surface in back-to-back drill holes. Now, that alone should make most people just stop scrolling right there, because thickness matters, continuity matters, and starting at surface matters a lot. Saga drilled 13 holes so far, not one miss, 13 out of 13. That's kind of amazing. That's like some Steph Curry kind of shooting, right? That kind of consistency just doesn't happen by accident. It tells you that the system is real, predictable, and large. Now, this is right where the story shifts from interesting to serious. Now, Saga has now officially moved from discovery into resource definition. Now, that's a critical inflection point. This is the moment where projects historically get re-rated, when institutions start paying attention, when serious capital shows up, and when comparisons to existing billion-ton deposits become unavoidable. And speaking of comparisons, Empire Metals, an Australian company, carries a market valuation around 300 million euros, based primarily on titanium resource. Saga, higher titanium grades, massive intercepts from surface, and 2 additional strategic metals, iron and vanadium. Yet, Saga sits around 21 million euros. Now, that gap, it's not subtle. It is massive, and it exists because the market hasn't fully caught up yet. yet. Now let's talk about why these metals matter, especially to Trump supporters who understand geopolitics. Now, titanium is critical for fighter jets, aerospace, medical implants, and even advanced manufacturing. Vanadium is essential for strengthening steel and for grid-scale energy storage, including the kind of infrastructure modernization Trump has repeatedly emphasized. Iron is the backbone of steel, the foundation of bridges, factories, ships, and defensive hardware. Now, this titanium, vanadium, iron combination is exactly the kind of strategic material basket that Western nations are scrambling to secure outside of China. President Trump already warned about this dependency for years. And so now companies like Saga are positioned where policy, security, and economics all collide. And that location matters. Saga's project sits in Labrador, and Labrador was made famous by billionaire Robert Friedland's discovery of Voisey's Bay that was sold for billions. A top-tier mining jurisdiction with infrastructure, road access, and shallow ore body. Now that dramatically lowers development risk compared to remote, unstable regions. There's also a clear path toward vertical integration, similar to companies like Largo that control production from the ground all the way to finished product. This is how real value gets built. Now, before I wrap this up, I need to be very clear and responsible here. I'm not an investment advisor. This is not investment advice. This video is sponsored on behalf of Saga Metals for informational purposes only. You should always conduct your own due diligence, review official filings, and consult a qualified financial professional before making any investment decisions. Speculative investments carry risk, including potential loss of capital. That said, what you're looking at here is not hype. It's geometry, it's grades, it's continuity, and it's timing. And in a world that's moving back toward nationalism, resource security, and America First economic thinking, the kind championed by President Donald J. Trump, stories like this don't stay quiet forever. The question is whether people notice before the rest of the market does. As always, I'm gonna let you decide. But this one is worth paying attention to. So the media wants drama, the military needs discipline, and when those two worlds collide, the fantasy shatters. So by this point, it's no longer Marco Rubio on trial, it is the credibility of the interviewer. Now, this is the moment CBS News clearly did not want to linger, because once it's said out loud, the entire premise of this gotcha question collapses. Marco Rubio, he states it plainly. Nicolas Maduro was never a legitimate president. Not in the eyes of the United States, not in the eyes of the European Union, and not in the eyes of dozens of countries across Latin America and beyond. Marco Rubio reframes Maduro for what he actually was, an indicted narco trafficker who claimed power through rigged elections and brute force. And that distinction matters because it destroys the media's framing. You don't destabilize democracy by arresting someone who never legitimately held power in the first place. Now, you can feel the tension spike here because Margaret Brennan doesn't press this point. She sidesteps it, and that silence is loud. Once legitimacy is removed from the equation, the outrage narrative evaporates. Now, at this point, CBS is not interrogating policy anymore. They're defending a fiction. Then Marco Rubio delivers the contrast CBS News clearly was not prepared for. So he explains that under the Biden administration, Maduro played Washington for years, making deals, breaking them, and walking away without consequences. Leverage was squandered, deadlines passed, enforcement vanished. Under President Donald J. Trump, that changed. Rubio explains that Trump offered Maduro multiple off-ramps, peaceful exits, negotiated solutions, and Maduro, he rejected every one of them. Not because the United States lacked options, but because he just assumed the consequences would never come. That assumption proved fatal. Trump's return to office reset the entire power dynamic. No more endless talks, no more performative diplomacy, just clarity. Cooperate or be removed. Now, this is why conservatives reacted so strongly to this moment. It wasn't just about Venezuela. It was about decisive leadership versus bureaucratic drift. And suddenly, Marco Rubio doesn't sound reckless at all. He sounds presidential. So by this point in this exchange, something uncomfortable settles in, and viewers feel it immediately. Margaret Brennan's tone doesn't sound skeptical of Nicolas Maduro. It actually sounds skeptical of his arrest. And that's where Marco Rubio doesn't even need to accuse. He lets the implication hang in the air. So why does CBS News sound offended that a dictator was removed? Well, Rubio never says it outright, but the contradiction is impossible to ignore. This is the same ideological class that chants "no kings," that warns endlessly about authoritarianism. Yet, here they are bristling at the takedown of a man who ruled through force, intimidation, and rigged elections. The hypocrisy lands hard. Rubio calmly reframes the situation. This wasn't about regime change for sport. This was about law enforcement, national security, and ending a criminal enterprise that destabilized the hemisphere. And when the media can't articulate why they're upset, only that they are, the audience fills in the blanks themselves. That's when the trust breaks. You don't need video to understand the contrast. You just need the picture described. Now, on the one side, American activists, many who have never lived under socialism, never faced censorship, never fled a dictatorship, protesting the arrest of Maduro, chanting, moralizing, performative outrage. But on the other side, Venezuelan refugees, people who actually lived it, people who fled Venezuela with nothing, people celebrating openly because the man who destroyed their country was finally gone. That emotional collision is devastating. Marco Rubio doesn't need to weaponize it. Reality does the work for him. The people with lived experience are relieved. The people with ideology are angry. And the audience, they already know exactly which side feels real. This is where the media's narrative fractures completely, because you can't lecture victims about their own oppressor, not without looking grotesquely out of touch. Once viewers see that split, they don't unsee it. So this is where Margaret Brennan reveals a deeper misunderstanding, not just of the operation, but out of history. She presses Marco Rubio on why there isn't an immediate transition to democracy, why elections aren't scheduled right away, why Venezuela doesn't instantly look normal now that Nicolas Maduro is gone. And Rubio patiently explains what CBS seems unwilling to acknowledge. You don't undo 15 plus years of authoritarian rot overnight. Venezuela didn't collapse in a weekend. Its institutions were hollowed out over more than a decade. Courts, elections, media, the economy, all bent to serve a single regime. Rubio makes this point clearly. Transitions take time. Stability comes before spectacle. Law before optics. This is where media fantasy collides with lived reality again. The expectations of instant democracy isn't just naive, it's straight up dangerous. And Rubio's refusal to indulge that fantasy makes him look grounded, not evasive. Reality doesn't move on a news cycle. Then Donald J. Trump enters the picture not as a footnote, but as the strategic center of gravity. Trump makes it clear that Venezuela isn't some far-off nation-building experiment. It's in our hemisphere. It affects migration, crime, energy markets, and regional stability. This is classic Monroe Doctrine logic. It's been ignored for years. Now, Marco Rubio reinforces that this is not Iraq. It isn't Afghanistan. It is a neighboring crisis with direct consequences for Americans, including oil prices. Now, under Trump, the goal is not occupation, it's normalization. Let Venezuelan oil benefit Venezuelans, not criminal networks, not adversaries, not hostile regimes like Iran or Cuba. Now, that framing lands because it's practical, not ideological, not performative. And suddenly, the media's imperialism narrative falls apart. This is not about conquest, it is about order, and Americans understand that instinctively. Now, here's the part CBS News never anticipated. They expected a clean narrative win, a controlled exchange, a clip that could be framed as Rubio dodges questions or Trump foreign policy under fire. Instead, they got the opposite. Marco Rubio, he came off calm, informed, and measured. He didn't rant. He didn't posture. He just explained reality while the interviewer sounded increasingly detached from it. And viewers felt that shift instantly, even before they could articulate why. This is why this moment spread so fast. People didn't share it because they love Rubio. They shared it because they recognized the pattern. Legacy media talking at people instead of to them, and getting exposed when someone refuses to play along. The audience sensed the collapse in real time. The pauses, the sidesteps, the questions that suddenly stopped. This wasn't a debate loss. This was a credibility failure, broadcast live. And once that happens, the internet does the rest. Now, this exchange wasn't an isolated moment. It was a symptom. Now, for decades, institutions like CBS News relied on assumed authority. The anchor asked, the viewer accepted, and that era is ending fast. And moments like this accelerated. So when Margaret Brennan tried to corner Marco Rubio, she expected deference. But what she got instead was resistance, grounded in facts, lived reality, and clarity under President Donald J. Trump's administration. This is why these moments trigger panic, because they expose something deeper. The media no longer controls the frame. The audience is judging in real time. And once viewers realize they don't need a gatekeeper to interpret what they're seeing, authority collapses. This is why the panic feels real. This is why the tone keeps sharpening. And this is why these interviews just keep on blowing up, because when reality walks onto the set, the script stops working. That's the moment everything changes.